All right, fifth graders, welcome to Module 3, Lesson 13. It's hard to believe we are already wrapping up this module. There are only 15 lessons that I teach in this module, so by the end of this week, we should have it all done and caught up. Today's Lesson 13, we're going to be working with benchmark fractions, but before we get into that, I want us to do our warm-up. So for our warm-up today, I have given you guys 4 different fractions, and we are going to reduce each one of these fractions, or another way to say that is to make it smaller or simplify them. So I want you to pause the video and try to reduce these fractions as low as you possibly can. Now this is a challenging concept, okay, but we have done it before in class. I have given you practice ones. I want you guys to practice reducing or making these smaller. When you are done, you can hit play and I will go over the answers with you. All right, so hopefully you guys went through and you reduced these fractions as small as you could. Looking at the first fraction, 21 over 28. The first question I need to ask myself is, what number can go into 21 that can also go into 28? I know that the number 7 can go into 21 and 7 can also go into 28, okay? I know 7, if I were to take this 21 and I were to divide it by 7, I know 21 can go into 7 3 times, and I know not 21 can go into 7 3 times. I'm sorry, 7 can go into 21 3 times. Now, how many times can 7 go into 28? Well, 7 can go into 28. Goodness, 4 times. So my overall answer right here is 3/4. That is as small as that fraction can go because nothing can go into 3 that can also go into 1, or that also can go into 4. 1 can go into both of those, but if I were to divide these out by 1, I'm going to get 3/4 again, which isn't going to give me a smaller fraction. That's as small as it can go. Going over here to number 2. What number can go into 32 that can also go into 48? Well, I know just by my multiplication facts that 8 can go into 32 and 8 can also go into 48. I know that 32 divided by 8 is going to get me 4. And I know that 48 divided by 8 is going to get me 6. But I'm not quite done yet because I'm looking at this fraction 4/6, and I know that if a fraction is a numerator and denominator are both even numbers, like they are here, which means they end in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, I can automatically divide it by 2. So if I were to look at this 4 and the 6, I can take 4 and divide it by 2. 4 divided by 2 is going to get me 2. And if I were to take this 6 and divide it by 2, 6 divided by 2 is going to get me 3. Now that is as small as I can make that fraction go because nothing can go into 2 that can also go into 3 that would make it smaller. Like I said before, 1 can go into both of those, but that's not going to make it smaller. Okay, because 2 divided by 1 would get me 2 again, and 3 divided by 1 would get me 3 again. Jumping over here to number 3, 18 and 24. I know that both of these are even, so they always can be reduced. I know a number that can go into 18 that can also go into 24. I know 6 can go into both of those. 18 divided by 6 is going to get me 3. And 24 divided by 6 is going to get me 4. Now that is as small as I can go there. Okay. Last one over here, 9/12. I know 3 can go into 9 and 3 can go into 12. So I'm going to take each one of these numbers and divide it by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 12 divided by 3 is going to get me 4. My final answer there is 3/4. So if I look at all of my fractions here, I know that I have to just use my multiplication facts. There's no direct strategy or method that's going to require us that we need to follow for these. But it does take a lot of thinking and it does take a lot of processing and puzzle solving skills to go through and reduce our fractions. So as you guys are working through those, just know that it's going to take some practice, but on your guys' test, I expect to see answers in the reduced smallest form, okay? Jumping down here to concept development, I have kind of a difficult concept today. I'm not going to lie. I searched on YouTube for about 40 minutes trying to find a fun, catchy song or a catchy video that was going to help explain this concept, and I couldn't come across anything that I found useful. So we're just going to go through it and know that this is not the easiest. I swear, every time I record, I start yawning. Don't know why. But for our concept development today, we're going to be using these things called benchmark fractions. Oops, I gotta highlight my cursor here. We're going to be doing these things using these things called benchmark fractions. Now, benchmark fractions, a few benchmark fractions are 1/4, okay, 1/2, 3/4, 1/3, and 2/3. These are fractions on a number line that we are going to be using to solve a lot of these problems mentally. If you look at my figure over here, it says today's focus is for mental math. So we're going to be focusing today on using these benchmark fractions over here to compare where our sum or our difference is going to be in comparison to one whole. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started because these are really tricky, guys. I'm not going to lie, they're tricky. So over here I have 1/2 plus 3/4, and I need to figure out if 1/2 plus 3/4 is going to be less than 1, greater than 1, or equal to 1. Now I could take these two fractions over here and I could butterfly them out, and I could see if 1/2 plus 3/4 would get me an answer over one whole or less than a whole. I could do that. But they don't want you to just go through and solve it. They want you to do this mentally. So a way to do it is kind of to draw a number line in your head. You want to be drawing that number line in your brain while going through these problems, because again, it's all mental. And there will be some of these questions on your Module 3 test. So going ahead and looking at this number line that I have 0, 1, and 2. All right. I know that 1/2 is going to be right here. Okay, here's my 1/2 value. 1/2. It's between 0 and 1. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I also know that 3/4 is going to be right here. Between 0 and 1, I've got 3/4. That looks like a really sloppy 3. It's the joys of doing this with a computer. I need to know if I'm adding these two together, am I going to go over the value of 1 or be under the value of 1? So looking at this number line, 0 to 1/2 is going to get me this section right here. Okay. 0 to 3/4 is going to get me this top section right here. Now, if I were to take, and again, I'm just doing this in my head, I don't like that line there. Oops. I am not solving it out butterfly. I'm doing this all in my brain, okay? If I were to take this section, let's see if do I have a line maker on here? That'd be handy. I don't think I do. No. If I take this section of green right here, okay, that 1/2 value, and I were to add it on top of this 3/4 right here, okay, so let me get my green. It's about yay big. It's going to be about from here. If I were to take this piece out and add it on top of my yellow, that's about the same size, about the same height there. If I were to do that and add them together, so the yellow and the green up top here, I'm going to be over the value of 1. I'm going to be larger than 1. Okay, I did that by saying, okay, well, I know 1/2 plus something else that's larger than 1/2 is going to automatically get me something over 1 whole. That's just common sense. If you have something that's at least 1/2, which is my benchmark right here, and add something to it that's larger than 1/2, I'm going to be over a whole because I know 1/2 and 1/2 is a whole. But if I'm adding something that's 1/2 and something larger than 1/2 together, I'm going to get over 1 whole. So without even solving this out butterfly method, I know in my brain that 1/2 plus 3/4 is going to be larger or greater than 1 whole, okay? That's what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to be focusing on, okay, how am I related to my benchmarks, okay? How am I going to be adding this up, kind of drawing that mental number line in your brain? How does that look when comparing it to 1 whole or 2 wholes, etc., okay? So that's our first side of our math notes. Now we're going to go to our second page of our math notes. Oops, get rid of that. Okay. It says right here for number 2, without calculating, which means without solving, what do you know about the value of these fractions? Okay, so I have 1 2/5 minus 2/3. Is that going to be greater than, less than, or equal to 1 whole? Okay, let me go ahead and draw my number line. Okay, so here's the number line. Ooh, again, I'm kind of drawing this in my brain too. I have 0, I have 1, and I have 2. Now I'm going to kind of pinpoint where 1 2/5 is on my number line. Well, I have 1 whole. I know that there isn't 2/5 cannot be a half because I don't have something equally cut in half of 5. But I know 1 2/5, if I had 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5, I know 1 2/5 is going to be about right here. This is going to be about my 1 and my 2/5. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to draw my benchmark fractions up here. I have 1/4. I have 1/2. I have 1 or 3/4. And then my other benchmark fractions are 1/3, which is between 1/4 and 1/2. And I have 2/3, which is between 1/2 and 3/4. So I have my 1 2/5 right here on my number line. So I know 1 2/5 is obviously over 1. And if I were to kind of picture in my head where the 5th fraction marks would be, 2/5 would be around this area. Okay. Now, I'm going to now subtract my 2/3. Now, 2/3, if I were to break this up in my fraction or on my number line, I have 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. Let me do that in a different color because I think the different colors help us visualize it. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. I'm going to be subtracting 2/3. 2/3 is larger than 1/2. 2/3 is going to be this section right here. Okay. Now, I'm going to take this overall section, this 2/3, and I'm going to be subtracting it from my 2/5. So if I were to cut out this green area, okay, and I were to put it next to this 2/5 and take all of it away, I'm going to get below 1. So let me see if I can kind of draw it a little bit. Let me see, maybe I can select it. Oh, I can. Oh, how cool is that? So here's my 2/3, okay? I am going to put it and line it up right next to my 1 2/5. If I were to take all of this away, okay, if I were to take all of that away, I'd land right in this area, which is less than 1 whole, okay? So that tells me that 1 2/5 minus 2/3 is going to be let's see, I just do like this. It's going to be less than 1 whole, okay? Again, I'm just kind of drawing that in my head visually. I'm now going to go down here. I have one more problem to do. I am running out of time on this recording, so please come back for part 2.